The manila envelope slipped under my apartment door at exactly 3:17 a.m. I know because I was wide awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying Marcus Sterling's words for the 100th time. Pack your desk, Sarah. Corporate doesn't tolerate leaks. I hadn't leaked anything. But here I was, unemployed after 6 years of perfect performance reviews, watching a mysterious envelope materialize like some twisted consolation prize. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Marcus Sterling, my former boss and VP of operations at Nexus Industries, caught in compromising positions with Rebecca Chen, the company's lead auditor. But these weren't just affair photos. They showed briefcases changing hands, documents being exchanged, and most damning of all, Marcus handing Rebecca a USB drive outside the federal building downtown. A handwritten note accompanied the photos. Now you have something real to leak. The choice is yours. A friend. 3 days earlier, I'd been Sarah Martinez, dedicated marketing coordinator with a spotless record. Now I was unemployed, broke, and holding evidence that my boss was the actual corporate spy he'd accused me of being. The irony was delicious. The revenge possibilities even more so. Before we dive deeper, hit subscribe and tell us in the comments. Would you expose the truth if it meant risking everything, or stay silent and live with the lie? Let me back up to where this nightmare began. Tuesday morning, 9:47 a.m., I was presenting our Q4 campaign strategy to the board when Marcus burst in like a man possessed. Sarah Martinez, you're coming with me. Now. His face was red, veins bulging in his neck. The board members exchanged worried glances as I gathered my materials with shaking hands. In his corner office, Marcus threw a stack of papers across his mahogany desk. Want to explain these? My heart stopped. The documents were confidential client proposals, deals worth millions that weren't supposed to exist outside the executive wing. But I'd never seen them before in my life. I tried to protest my innocence, but Marcus cut me off with accusations that made my world tilt sideways. IT had traced the files to my login credentials, uploaded to a third-party server the previous night at 11:43 p.m. But I was home by 9 p.m. yesterday, binge-watching Netflix with a bottle of cheap wine. Someone must have stolen my security footage. Shows you badging into the building at 11:30 p.m. Leaving at 11:55 p.m. Explain that. I couldn't, because I wasn't there. But somehow, the cameras said otherwise. Marcus leaned forward, his breath reeking of coffee and something stronger, delivering his final judgment with cold satisfaction. He trusted me once, he said. Thought I was one of the good ones. But industrial espionage was a federal crime, and he'd hate to see me in prison. 23 minutes later, I was standing on the sidewalk outside Nexus Industries, clutching a cardboard box of my belongings, wondering how my life had imploded so completely. I spent the next 2 days in a haze of disbelief and rage. My attempts to reach HR went unanswered. My work email was deactivated. Even my former colleagues avoided me like I had some contagious disease. Word travels fast in corporate circles, and apparently, I was now toxic. Then came the envelope. I spread the photographs across my kitchen table, studying each one with the intensity of a detective. The images were crystal clear, taken with professional equipment. Marcus and Rebecca meeting in parking garages, hotel lobbies, and that final damning shot at the federal building. But it was the timestamp on the federal building photo that made my blood freeze. 11:45 p.m., the exact same night I was supposedly stealing company secrets. Someone had been watching Marcus for weeks, maybe months. Someone who knew he was the real traitor. Someone who'd used me as the perfect scapegoat while documenting his actual crimes. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Did you enjoy your reading material? The voice was electronically distorted, like something from a thriller movie. Who is this? Someone who knows the truth about Marcus Sterling. Someone who's been waiting for the right moment to expose him. Why me? Why frame me for what he did? A pause. Because you were convenient. Clean record, access to the right systems, and naive enough to never see it coming. But don't worry, redemption is within your grasp. What do you want? Justice. Marcus has been selling Nexus's secrets to competitors for 2 years. Rebecca Chun helps him launder the money through fake audit reports. Together, they've cost her company over $50 million in lost contracts. The pieces clicked into place. Rebecca had access to everyone's login credentials through her audit work. She could easily frame anyone for the thefts while covering Marcus's tracks. My anonymous caller confirmed they had proof, the photos I was holding. But images weren't enough. They needed more. You want your life back, don't you? Your reputation? Your career? Marcus took all of that from you. Help me take something from him. The line went dead. I stared at the photos, my hands trembling with something that wasn't fear anymore. It was opportunity. The burner phone arrived by courier the next morning with a simple message directing me to Riverside Park. I almost didn't go, but the wounded part of me, the part that had watched 6 years of dedication crumble in 23 minutes, wanted something more personal than letting justice run its course. The park was nearly empty on a cold Thursday afternoon. A jogger in a navy tracksuit stopped beside my bench, introducing herself as Dr. Lisa Wong while showing me her driver's license for transparency. My mouth fell open when she revealed herself as Nexus Industries' former head of R&D, fired 8 months ago by Marcus Sterling under the same industrial espionage charges. Same playbook. Stolen credentials, security footage that didn't quite add up, evidence planted where it would do the most damage. Only difference is I had enough savings to hire a private investigator. She gestured toward the photographs. That's 8 months of surveillance work you're holding. Lisa had tried going to the police, but Marcus was careful. Everything traced back to his victims, never to him. The FBI needed ironclad evidence to move against corporate executives, and circumstantial evidence wasn't enough. She showed me building blueprints on her tablet, explaining that Marcus kept the real evidence in his office safe, transaction records, communications with buyers, the actual contracts he'd been selling. The safe was biometric locked and connected to the building's main security system. You want me to break in? I'm not exactly a master thief. You don't need to be. You just need to get close enough for this. She produced a military-grade scanner about the size of a USB drive that could crack his biometric lock with 30 seconds of proximity. When I questioned how I could possibly access his office after being banned from the building, Lisa's smile turned predatory as she outlined the real plan. The Nexus Industries annual charity gala was the social event of the corporate calendar, held in the building's main conference center and giving us legitimate access to the executive floors. Lisa had prepared everything: designer dress, fake journalist credentials, even a photographer's badge to explain suspicious behavior. The ballroom was magnificent, filled with the city's business elite networking with practice smiles. I spotted Marcus immediately, holding court near the bar with Rebecca Chun on his arm like a glittering accessory. Seeing him laugh and charm the crowd while my career lay in ruins made my jaw clench, but I forced myself to play the interested journalist, working the room with questions about Nexus's innovative approach to corporate security. At 9:25 p.m., Marcus headed for the stage. I slipped out through a service door and took the freight elevator to the executive floor, navigating the dimly lit hallways I'd studied until I could walk them blindfolded. Lisa's voice crackled through my earpiece, confirming my timing as I entered Marcus's office and found the lighthouse painting behind his desk. The painting swung aside on hidden hinges, revealing the biometric safe. I pressed Lisa's device against the smooth metal surface, watching lines of code scroll across its display while Marcus gave his speech in the ballroom below. Through the window, he looked so confident, so untouchable. The device beeped its countdown, and the safe door swung open, revealing stacks of documents, USB drives, and enough evidence to bury Marcus Sterling permanently. I stuffed everything into my clutch and closed the safe. But as I reached for the office door, footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Lisa's voice was sharp with concern. Marcus had left the podium early. The door handle turned. There was nowhere to run. Marcus walked through the only exit with Rebecca at his side, their faces flushed with champagne and victory. Well, Marcus said, his voice dripping with mock surprise. If it isn't our former employee. Having trouble staying away, Sarah? I clutched my evening bag tighter, feeling the stolen documents pressing against my ribs. My weak excuse about looking for the restroom drew harsh laughter from Rebecca, who questioned the logic of searching Marcus's locked private office. Actually, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady, I was hoping to have a conversation with you both about Rebecca's audit of my credentials and Marcus's sudden concern about corporate security. Something flickered in Marcus's eyes, but I pressed on, showing them the federal building photograph on my phone. Funny how you were so worried about leaks when you've been having secret meetings with federal agents. Rebecca went pale, but Marcus quickly regained control, demanding to know what I wanted. When I pressed for the truth about who'd been selling company secrets and framing me, he stepped closer, his corporate politeness finally cracking. You have no idea what you're dealing with, Sarah. Some games are bigger than your small-minded need for revenge. Try me. Marcus poured himself a scotch and delivered what he claimed was the truth, that he and Rebecca were working with the FBI to expose a larger conspiracy involving half the executives in the building. Nexus Industries was a front for money laundering and industrial espionage, with the real criminals being board members who'd hired him to clean house quietly. You destroyed my life for a cover story? Your life. Marcus laughed harshly. Sarah, 3 of our board members have been funneling money to terrorist organizations. They've killed people to protect their secrets. Your hurt feelings don't exactly register on our priority list. But when I demanded proof of their FBI credentials, the look Marcus and Rebecca exchanged lasted just a fraction too long. Their classified excuse fell apart when I showed them the photograph of Marcus handing Rebecca a briefcase full of cash. FBI agents don't usually deal in stacks of unmarked bills. The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Finally, Marcus set down his glass. You're smarter than I gave you credit for. The real story emerged with chilling clarity. Lisa Wong had died 6 months ago in a convenient car accident. The woman I'd met was an associate, an actress playing a role to manipulate me into stealing the documents they needed to disappear. You see, we really are selling secrets, just not to competitors. Our buyers are much more interesting. Foreign governments, Marcus explained. Certain nations very interested in American industrial capabilities, willing to pay handsomely for that information. Rebecca raised her gun, explaining the beautiful simplicity of their plan. Disgruntled former employee breaks into executive office, gets shot while resisting security. Very tragic. Very believable. Through the window, I could see the charity gala continuing below, hundreds of people completely unaware that their respected VP was about to commit murder 20 floors above their heads. You won't get away with this, I said, though my voice sounded hollow even to me. Actually, we will. Because in about 30 seconds, you're going to have a very unfortunate accident. Rebecca's finger tightened on the trigger, but she never got the chance to fire. The office door exploded inward as FBI agents flooded the room, weapons drawn, and voices shouting commands that turned the air electric with authority. Drop your weapon. Now. Rebecca's gun clattered to the floor as Marcus raised his hands, his face cycling through shock, confusion, and finally, desperate calculation. His attempts to claim a mistake were cut off by the lead agent, a woman with steel-gray hair and no patience for corporate doublespeak. Marcus Sterling, Rebecca Chun, you're under arrest for industrial espionage, conspiracy, and attempted murder. As the agents cuffed them, I slumped against the window, my legs finally giving out. The adrenaline crash hit me like a freight train, leaving me shaking and nauseous. Sarah? A familiar voice made me look up. Dr. Lisa Wong stood in the doorway, very much alive and flanked by 2 more FBI agents. But you're dead, I whispered. They said you were dead. Lisa smiled sadly. Reports of my death were greatly exaggerated, though Marcus and Rebecca certainly tried their best to make it a reality. Agent Patricia Morrison from the FBI Financial Crimes Division helped me to my feet, explaining that Lisa had been working with them for 8 months to build a case against Sterling and Chun. The car accident had been staged after Marcus fired her and she started investigating his activities. But the car accident was staged, Lisa said. After Marcus fired me, I started digging into his activities on my own. I found enough evidence to approach the FBI, but we needed more. We needed to catch them in the act of selling secrets, and we needed someone they trusted to help us do it. Someone they could frame, I said bitterly. Someone they would underestimate, Lisa corrected gently. Sarah, you were never supposed to be the fall guy. You were supposed to be the hero. Agent Morrison showed me video feed of their surveillance, explaining they'd been monitoring Sterling's office for weeks. Everything that happened tonight had given them what they needed for a conviction. Marcus and Rebecca had indeed been selling to foreign governments, China specifically, compromising dozens of American companies over 3 years. Rebecca was a money laundering expert who converted payments through fake audit reports. My confusion about stealing evidence from the safe was cleared up. Everything in there was evidence of their crimes. By taking it, I'd helped preserve it before they could destroy it. So none of this was about revenge? The story went viral within hours. Dead housewife returns, builds empire, forgives would-be murderer, became the most read business article of the year. Hollywood producers called with movie offers. Publishers wanted book deals. But I turned them all down. Because here's the real secret, I never wanted fame or recognition. I just wanted to prove that I was never just anything. The ultimate revenge wasn't destroying Marcus. It was showing him what he'd lost when he decided I was worth more dead than alive. Elena Chin disappeared as quietly as she'd returned. I moved to a small town in Oregon, bought a cabin near the mountains, and started a new life under my real name, something I hadn't done in 3 years. This time, I chose an identity that couldn't be traced or tracked because I was finally living as myself. Marcus kept Elena Chin Consulting and, to his credit, ran it well. He learned from watching me, developed his own management style, and eventually grew the company even larger than I had. The experience had humbled him in ways that probably saved his life and definitely saved his soul. He never tried to find me. Smart man. Every year on February 15th, the date he'd originally planned to murder me, Marcus donated money to domestic violence charities in Elena Chen's name. It was a small gesture, but it showed he understood what he'd almost become. 5 years later, I was sitting in my garden reading the business section when I saw Marcus's photo on the front page. He'd just been named Entrepreneur of the Year by Silicon Valley Business Journal for his innovative approach to corporate consulting. In the interview, he talked about learning from failure, the importance of respecting everyone's contributions, and how his greatest business education had come from a remarkable woman who taught me that intelligence comes in many forms. He never mentioned my name, but I knew he was talking about Elena. Not Margaret Walsh, not the CEO who destroyed him, but the housewife he'd underestimated so completely that he'd thought murder was easier than divorce. The article mentioned that Elena Chin Consulting had established a foundation for women escaping domestic violence, providing them with job training and financial support. Marcus had turned his guilt into something useful. I smiled and turned the page. The garden needed watering, and I had vegetables to harvest. Somewhere in Silicon Valley, Marcus Chin was probably sitting in a boardroom explaining strategic consulting to executives who hung on his every word. He'd learned to value intelligence wherever he found it, to treat employees with respect, and to never underestimate someone just because they seemed ordinary. Those were good lessons. It had only cost him everything to learn them. As for me, I was exactly where I wanted to be, invisible, peaceful, and free. I'd proven my point and gotten my revenge. The housewife was gone, the CEO was retired, and the woman who remained was finally just herself. Sometimes the best victory is walking away while you're winning. And sometimes the best revenge is teaching someone to be better than they were. Marcus had wanted to murder me for money. Instead, I taught him how to live with honor. In the end, we both got exactly what we deserved. And if you liked this story, give it a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more shocking tales. Click the box on the left. Your next adventure is waiting.